The Vorthak warrior's battle axe whistled past Marcus Kane's ear, embedding itself 3 inches deep in the obsidian pillar behind him. Crimson sparks erupted from the impact, illuminating the savage grin spreading across his opponent's azure features. The crowd's bloodthirsty roar intensified, hundreds of Vorthak voices creating a symphony of violence that echoed off the arena's bone-carved walls. "You should have minded your own business, soft skin," Grimjaw snarled, his voice like grinding stone. The massive Vorthak stood nearly 9 feet tall, his blue hide scarred by countless battles, muscles bulging beneath ceremonial bone armor that clinked with each movement. Ritual scars covered his arms in intricate patterns, each one representing a defeated enemy. Marcus rolled sideways, his combat knife flashing as he regained his footing on the rain-slicked volcanic glass of the arena floor. The storm above Zarian Prime's capital city sent acidic droplets hissing through the arena's open roof, each one burning like liquid fire against exposed skin. His left shoulder already bore 3 angry welts where the rain had eaten through his shirt. "All I did was ask for directions," Marcus called out, circling his opponent while scanning for weaknesses. The arena floor was treacherous, polished volcanic glass that became lethal when wet. One wrong step would send him sliding into Grimjaw's reach. "Your people have a hell of a way of being helpful." From the elevated stone seats surrounding the fighting pit, hundreds of Vorthak spectators roared their approval. Their blue-skinned forms writhed in bloodthirsty excitement, bone ornaments clacking as they stamped their feet on the ancient benches, carved from the bones of extinct beasts. Children barely old enough to walk were lifted high to see the carnage, their young voices adding to the din. "Human blood! Human blood!" they chanted in their guttural language, the translation crackling through Marcus's earpiece. At the center of the crowd sat Ravenna, the Vorthak noble, whose honor Grimjaw claimed to defend. Her skin was the deep blue of midnight oceans, but it was her hair that marked her as royalty, a cascade of crimson locks that seemed to burn like flames against her dark flesh. Golden rings pierced her ears and nose, each one inscribed with the genealogy of her ancient bloodline. Her 5 female attendants flanked her, each sharing the blue coloration of their species, but with practical black hair cropped short for battle. Their hands rested casually on the hilts of curved fighting knives. But Marcus noticed something else. One of the attendants, Vex, kept glancing nervously toward the arena's exit tunnels. Her posture was too rigid, her breathing too controlled. A warrior trained in deception might miss it, but Marcus's military intelligence background had taught him to read micro-expressions. "Human!" Ravenna's voice cut through the crowd's roar like a blade, amplified by the arena's acoustics. "You dishonored me by speaking without permission. Ancient Vorthak law demands satisfaction in blood." Marcus dodged another bone-crushing swing from Grimjaw's recovered axe, the weapon's obsidian head leaving a crater in the arena floor. Molten glass sprayed from the impact, hissing as it cooled in the acid rain. "Lady Ravenna," he shouted back, "call off your champion. There's been a misunderstanding." Grimjaw's response was a horizontal sweep that would have taken Marcus's head off if he hadn't dropped into a combat roll. The axe blade passed inches above his back, close enough that he felt the wind of its passage. Ravenna's laugh was harsh as the volcanic winds. "No misunderstanding, Outlander. You broke our sacred customs. Now you face the consequences." She gestured with a 6-fingered hand marked by ritual scars, the ancient symbols seeming to writhe in the flickering torchlight. "Fight well or die poorly. The choice is yours." The crowd's chanting grew louder, more frenzied. Marcus caught glimpses of wagering taking place in the upper tiers, bone tokens changing hands as spectators bet on how long the human would last. Most seemed to give him less than a minute. Grimjaw charged again, his weight making the glass floor tremble. But Marcus had spent 3 years fighting in Earth's underground resistance, learning to turn an opponent's size against them. As the axe swept toward his head, he dropped low, sliding across the slick surface to slice his knife across the back of Grimjaw's knee. The warrior stumbled, blue blood spattering the arena floor. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his small, pig-like eyes. The crowd's chanting faltered, confusion rippling through the packed stands. "First blood to the human," someone shouted. and Marcus heard the rapid exchange of new wagers. "You're strong," Marcus admitted, rising to his feet, his knife now slick with alien blood. "But you telegraph every move like you're sending a message to orbit." Grimjaw's scarred face darkened with rage, but he was more cautious now, circling Marcus with predatory patience. "Strong words from dead meat," he growled. "Let's see how you handle this." The Vorthak warrior reached behind his back and drew a second weapon, a curved fighting dagger designed for close-quarters work. Now armed with both axe and knife, he became a whirlwind of deadly steel. Marcus gave ground, his military training analyzing attack patterns. Grimjaw was ambidextrous, equally dangerous with either hand. The axe would come high, the dagger low, forcing Marcus to defend against attacks on multiple levels simultaneously. The crowd fell silent as the two fighters engaged in earnest. Steel rang against steel in rapid staccato bursts, each exchange sending sparks cascading across the rain-slick glass. Marcus's knife work was precise and economical, every parry calculated to redirect rather than absorb the full force of Grimjaw's attacks. But the Vorthak was learning too. Each exchange taught him something about human fighting styles, and he began adapting his assault accordingly. A feint with the axe set up a thrust with the dagger that nearly found Marcus's ribs. Only a last-second twist saved him, the blade slicing through his shirt to draw a thin line of blood across his chest. The crowd erupted at the sight of human blood. Even in their bloodthirsty culture, acknowledging an opponent's skill was considered honorable. But drawing blood was what they'd really come to see. "Getting tired, human?" Grimjaw taunted, pressing his advantage. "Vorthak warriors can fight for days without rest." Marcus was indeed feeling the strain. The heavier gravity, the acidic air burning his lungs, the constant need to avoid Grimjaw's dual weapons. It was taking its toll. But he'd been in worse situations before. "Maybe," he admitted, circling closer to one of the obsidian pillars that supported the arena's roof. "But humans are sneaky bastards." As Grimjaw lunged forward with a combination attack, Marcus suddenly reversed direction, putting the pillar between them. The Vorthak's axe, committed to its arc, struck the volcanic glass with tremendous force and stuck. For a crucial second, Grimjaw struggled to free his primary weapon from the pillar. Marcus didn't waste the opportunity. He vaulted over a fallen piece of debris, using his momentum to drive his knife up under the warrior's chin, piercing the soft tissue beneath the jaw and continuing into the brain. Grimjaw's eyes widened in disbelief. His massive hands clutched at the knife handle as he toppled backward, his life's blood pooling on the volcanic glass. The dagger fell from nerveless fingers, clattering across the arena floor. The arena erupted in stunned silence. Marcus stood over his fallen opponent, breathing hard, his clothes torn and bloody from dozens of minor cuts. Acid rain continued to fall, washing the blue blood in streaming rivulets toward the drainage grates. Then slowly, Ravenna rose from her seat. Her crimson hair whipped in the acid-laden wind as she descended the stone steps, her attendants following like shadows. The crowd remained silent, unsure how to react to this unprecedented outcome. When she reached the arena floor, she knelt before Marcus, her proud head bowed. The 5 attendants immediately followed suit, their weapons placed on the ground before them in a gesture of surrender. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked, confusion replacing the adrenaline rush of combat. "By the iron laws of Zerion," an ancient Vorthak elder intoned from the crowd, "you have defeated the Lady Ravenna's champion in honorable combat. She and her household warriors now belong to you, bound by blood and victory." Marcus stared at the 5 blue-skinned women kneeling behind their mistress. Each was clearly a warrior in her own right. Scarred hands, weapons-calloused fingers, the alert posture of someone always ready for violence. "This is insane. I don't want to own anyone." "The law is absolute," the elder continued. "To refuse their service would bring them dishonor worse than death. They are yours now, protectors, companions, and if you choose, breeding partners to continue your genetic line." Thunder crashed overhead as Marcus looked down at Ravenna, still kneeling in the spreading pool of her champion's blood. When their eyes met, he saw not submission, but a fierce intelligence trapped by traditions beyond her control. There was something else in her gaze, relief, as if his victory had freed her from something worse than servitude. "Well," he muttered, This wasn't in the shipping manifest. 6 hours later, Marcus found himself trudging through Zarian Prime's maze-like market districts, his unwanted entourage trailing behind him like a military formation. The acid rain had stopped, but the air still reeked of sulfur and ozone from the planet's volatile atmosphere. Steam rose from the wet streets, carrying the acrid smell of dissolved metal and stone. Ravenna walked beside him, her bearing rigid with wounded pride. Behind them, her 5 attendants, Kess, Thera, Nyx, Zara, and Vex, carried simple travel packs containing their meager possessions. Each woman was a trained warrior in her own right, their movements fluid and alert despite their formal subservience. But Marcus noticed Vex lagging slightly behind the group, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. When she thought no one was looking, she made subtle hand gestures, signals in what looked like military code. "Your ship," Ravenna said, breaking the uncomfortable silence. "Where is it docked?" "Bay 94 at the commercial spaceport," Marcus replied, "though after what happened in the arena, I doubt we'll be leaving anytime soon." As if summoned by his words, a squad of Vorthak's security forces emerged from an alley ahead, their bone armor clattering as they formed a blockade. At their head stood Warlord Vex Karun, a scarred veteran whose rivalry with Ravenna's family was legendary. Half his face was a mass of scar tissue from some long-ago battle, and his left arm had been replaced with a mechanical prosthetic that whirred softly as it moved. "Human," Vex Karun growled, his voice distorted by a throat wound that had never properly healed. "You carry something that doesn't belong to you." Marcus's hand moved instinctively to the knife at his belt, still stained with Grimjaw's blood. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The Crimson Gene Seed," Ravenna said quietly, her voice tight with tension. "He means the Crimson Gene Seed." Vex Karun's damaged features twisted into a sneer. "So she told you. Good. Then you understand why I cannot allow you to leave Zarian space." His mechanical fingers flexed, revealing hidden weapon ports in the prosthetic arm. From within her travel pack, Ravenna produced a small biocontainment unit that pulsed with soft red light. The device was clearly Vorthak technology, organic curves blending seamlessly with crystalline structures. Bioluminescent veins ran across its surface like a circulatory system, pulsing in rhythm with some internal process. "My family's genetic heritage," she explained to Marcus, her voice barely above a whisper. "The pure bloodline of our ancient rulers, preserved in living genetic material for 20 generations. Whoever controls it controls the future of our people." Marcus studied the device, his engineer's mind recognizing advanced biotechnology when he saw it. The container seemed almost alive, responding to Ravenna's touch with increased luminescence. "And Vex Karun wants it for himself. He believes victory in combat grants him the right to claim both the gene seed and its keeper," Ravenna said. "But Vorthak law is clear. You defeated my champion. We belong to you now." Vex Karun's scarred face darkened with rage. "Enough talk." His prosthetic arm unfolded into a multi-barreled energy weapon. "Surrender the woman and the gene seed, or face me in combat." Marcus was about to respond when he caught movement in his peripheral vision. Vex had positioned herself between their group and the nearest escape route, her hand resting on her weapon hilt. The realization hit him like a physical blow. They'd been betrayed. "Actually," Marcus said, his military tactical training kicking in as he noticed the crowd of civilian Vorthak beginning to gather. "I've got a better idea." Before anyone could react, he grabbed Ravenna's hand and sprinted not toward the obvious escape route where Vex waited, but toward a narrow service alley that led deeper into the market district. "Run!" The attendants followed without hesitation, all except Vex, who hesitated for a crucial second before shouting to Vex Karun, "The sewers! They're heading for the old drainage system." Behind them, Vex Karun's roar of fury echoed through the marketplace as his guards gave chase, their energy weapons sending bright bolts sizzling through the humid air. But now they had direction, guided by their inside information. "Vex sold us out," Marcus panted as they ran through the twisting alley. "I know," Ravenna replied grimly. "She's been reporting to Vex Karun since my father's death. I kept her close to control the information she could pass along." "Then why?" "Because sometimes the best way to catch a spy is to give them false information." Marcus led them through a maze of service tunnels beneath the market district, his enhanced military conditioning allowing him to maintain pace despite the planet's heavier gravity. The Vorthak women kept up easily, their physiology adapted for the harsh environment. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew closer. Boots clanging on metal grating shouted orders in the guttural Vorthak language. "Where are we going?" Kess called out, her voice sharp with tactical awareness. "Somewhere they won't look," Marcus replied, taking a sharp turn into an abandoned geothermal processing plant. Hot air rushed out to meet them, carrying the metallic taste of processed minerals. "My ship's been sabotaged anyway. We need time to figure out our next move." They emerged into a vast chamber filled with inactive thermal conversion equipment, the air thick with residual heat and the metallic taste of processed minerals. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the industrial landscape. Massive pipes ran along the walls like arteries, their surfaces slick with condensation. "We can't stay here long," Thara warned, checking the corridor behind them with practiced efficiency. "Vex Karun has informants throughout the underground levels. And now he has Vex to guide him directly to us," Nyx added bitterly. Marcus nodded, his mind racing through options. The gene seed, how dangerous is it really? Ravenna clutched the biocontainer protectively, her knuckles white with tension. In the wrong hands, it could be used to create hybrid warriors, beings with combined human and Vorthak traits. The military applications alone. She trailed off, but Marcus could see the fear in her eyes. "Would make someone very powerful," Marcus finished, "and very rich." "More than that," Nyx interjected, her voice carrying the weight of forbidden knowledge. "The gene seed responds to specific neural patterns. It's been bonding with Ravenna since her father's death, altering her biochemistry." Marcus turned to study Ravenna more closely. Now that she mentioned it, there did seem to be something different about her. A heightened awareness, an almost predatory grace in her movements. Her pupils were slightly dilated, and he could see her pulse throbbing visibly in her throat. "The changes are accelerating," Ravenna admitted, her blue skin flushing darker, with what might have been embarrassment. "The gene seed is preparing me for continuation of the bloodline." The implications hung heavy in the recycled air. Before Marcus could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the chamber, multiple sets moving with military precision. "Found them!" Vex's voice carried clearly through the complex. "They're in the primary processing chamber." "Time to move," Marcus said grimly. They escaped through a waste disposal chute, sliding down into the city's ancient sewer system. The tunnels here were older than the surface structures, carved from living rock by the planet's original inhabitants. Bioluminescent growths provided dim lighting, and the air was thick with moisture and alien spores. "This way," Zara whispered, taking the lead. "I know these tunnels from my childhood." They waded through knee-deep water that glowed faintly with bacterial phosphorescence, leaving no footprints for their pursuers to follow. Behind them, they could hear Vex Karun's forces searching the processing plant, their frustrated shouts echoing through the complex. "The betrayal was expected," Ravenna said quietly as they moved through the tunnels. "But it still hurts." "Why didn't you tell us?" Kess asked. "Because the information I gave Vex was carefully chosen. She believes we're heading for the spaceport to steal a ship. In reality, we're going somewhere else entirely." Marcus looked back at her with new respect. "Where?" "The old temple complex on the city's outskirts. Abandoned for centuries, but the biomechanical systems are still functional. More importantly, it contains a communication array that can reach off-world." "Who are we calling?" Thara asked. Ravenna's smile was sharp as a blade. "My cousin, commander of the Vorthak Deep Space Fleet. They found temporary refuge in an abandoned residential complex on the city's outskirts, its bioorganic walls slowly decomposing in the acidic atmosphere. The structures were typical Vorthak architecture, living buildings that had been grown rather than constructed, now slowly dying without proper care. Fungal growths sprouted from the walls like tumors, and the floor felt spongy underfoot. "This will have to do," Marcus said, checking the primitive door locks. "At least until I can figure out how to get us off-world." Ravenna set down the gene seed container on a corroded table, its red glow providing the only light in the room. The bioluminescence pulsed more rapidly now, as if responding to their stress levels. "There's something else you should know," she said, her voice tight with anxiety. The bonding process, it's not limited to just me. What do you mean? The gene seed recognizes you as my chosen mate, she explained, her crimson hair catching the device's light. It's already begun altering my biochemistry to be compatible with human genetics, but the process affects my entire household. Marcus looked at the remaining four attendants. Vex's betrayal had left them one short. They moved with fluid coordination, anticipating each other's needs without verbal communication. All of them. We are bound to Ravenna's bloodline, Thera said simply, not looking up from where she was checking their weapons. Where she goes, we follow. What affects her, affects us. Zara looked up from where she was checking their weapons, her golden eyes reflecting the gene seed's light. The gene seed's influence grows stronger with proximity to both the keeper and her chosen mate. We're all changing. As she spoke, Marcus noticed that her skin had taken on a subtle luminescence, similar to the gene seed's glow. The others showed similar changes: enhanced muscle definition, more acute awareness, and almost predatory grace in their movements. Before Marcus could ask what kind of changes, an explosion rocked the building. Through the bioorganic walls, they could see the glow of approaching torches and the blue-white discharge of energy weapons. Vex Karun found us, Thara said, moving to a window. Her enhanced senses could detect details invisible to human eyes. 24 warriors, maybe more. They're surrounding the building. Vex is with them, Kess added grimly. She's pointing out weak spots in our defenses. Marcus checked his knife, knowing it wouldn't be enough against those odds. How long until they breach the building? Minutes, Nyx replied grimly. These walls won't hold against their thermal weapons. Ravenna stood, the gene seed container in her hands. There's another way, she said quietly. The bonding process can be accelerated. If we complete the ritual... What ritual? Marcus asked, though something in her tone told him he might not like the answer. The gene seed requires physical contact between keeper and chosen mate to fully activate. Once bonded, it grants enhanced strength, speed, and healing to both partners. Her eyes met his and he saw desperation there. And to all members of the household. Another explosion, closer this time. The building shuddered and chunks of biomatter fell from the ceiling like diseased flesh. How much enhancement are we talking about? Marcus asked. Enough to fight our way out, Ravenna said. But the bond, once formed, is permanent. We would be linked at the genetic level, all of us. Through the walls, they could hear Vex's voice directing the attack. The human will try to escape through the back. Block all exits. Marcus looked at the four blue-skinned women, their alien beauty highlighted by the gene seed's crimson glow. He thought of Earth, of his simple life as a cargo hauler, of everything he was about to leave behind. The wall exploded inward. Vex Karun and his warriors poured through the breach, their weapons raised. The warlord's mechanical arm had transformed into a massive energy cannon, its barrel glowing with lethal charge. Behind him, Vex pointed directly at Marcus. There! The human has the gene seed. Too late for second thoughts, Marcus muttered. He reached out and grasped Ravenna's hand where it held the gene seed container. The effect was instantaneous and overwhelming. Energy coursed through both of them, a burning sensation that felt like every cell in their bodies was being rewritten. The container's red light intensified until it was blinding, washing out all other colors in the room. Marcus felt his consciousness expand to include not just Ravenna, but all four of her remaining attendants, their minds suddenly linked in a web of shared sensation and thought. Strength flooded through him, not just physical power, but enhanced reflexes, heightened senses, and almost supernatural awareness of his surroundings. He could feel Ravenna's heart beating in perfect synchronization with his own, could sense the exact positions of Vex Karun's warriors through the walls, could hear their whispered tactical communications as clearly as if they were shouting. Pain accompanied the transformation, muscles reshaping themselves, bones becoming denser, nervous system rewiring itself for faster transmission speeds. Through the link, he felt the women experiencing similar changes, their already formidable warrior abilities being magnified beyond Vorthak norms. But there was something else, a moment of vulnerability as their bodies adapted to the new genetic template. For several seconds, they were helpless, paralyzed by the transformation process. Vex Karun saw his opportunity. his energy cannon charged with a high-pitched whine, preparing to fire at the helpless group. It was Vex who saved them. Despite her betrayal, some remnant of loyalty to her former household made her tackle the warlord just as he fired. The energy bolt went wide, melting a hole in the wall instead of incinerating the bonding group. "Now," Ravenna whispered, her voice carrying new harmonics that resonated in his bones. They moved as one perfect entity with 5 bodies. Marcus's knife found the throat of the first warrior before the Vorthak even knew he was there, his enhanced speed making him appear almost teleported across the room. Ravenna's bare hands crushed bone armor like paper, her strength now exceeding even Vorthak military standards. The attendants flowed around them in perfect coordination, their movements unnaturally fluid and precise, each woman covering the other's attacks with supernatural timing. Vex Karun himself lasted longest, his combat experience and mechanical augmentations allowing him to adapt to their enhanced speed. His energy cannon filled the room with destructive bolts that left molten craters in the walls. But in the end, he fell like the others, his scarred throat opened by Marcus's blade, his prosthetic arms sparking and twitching as it powered down. Vex lay dying in the corner, blue blood pooling beneath her. As Marcus approached, she looked up at him with pain-filled eyes. I'm sorry," she whispered. "He threatened my sister's children. I had no choice." "Everyone has a choice," Marcus replied, but his voice was gentle. "Some are just harder than others." As the last warrior dropped, the bonding energy finally faded. Marcus staggered, exhausted by the sudden rush and subsequent drain. But when he looked at Ravenna and her attendants, he saw the bond had left its mark on all of them. Their eyes held a new light, not just the reflection of the gene seed's glow, but an inner fire that spoke of fundamental change. Their movements carried a deadly grace that hadn't been there before, and he could still feel the whisper of their thoughts at the edge of his consciousness. "Is it done?" he asked, his voice hoarse from the transformation. Ravenna smiled, and for the first time, it was free of aristocratic coldness. "We are bound now, Marcus Kane. All of us. Your strength is our strength. Your will is our will." She gestured to the gene seed container, which had gone dark and inert. "The process is complete. What was potential is now reality." Marcus felt a stirring in his mind, not his own thoughts but theirs. 4 alien consciousnesses now linked to his own. It should have been overwhelming, but instead it felt complete, like finding pieces of himself he'd never known were missing. "So what now?" he asked. "Now," Kess said, checking Vexkaran's body for weapons and finding several hidden blades. "We get off this rock and find somewhere safe to figure out what we've become." "And where exactly would that be?" Marcus asked, testing his enhanced reflexes by catching a piece of falling debris without conscious thought. Ravenna's smile turned predatory. "I know a place. There's an abandoned research station in the Void Belt, left over from the old wars. Fully automated, still functional. Can we trust it?" "We can defend it," she replied, "and more importantly, it's where we can learn to use our new abilities without interference." Marcus nodded, already feeling the pull of their shared bond urging him toward action. "Then let's go. But first we need a ship." "The spaceport will be heavily guarded," Thora warned. "Good thing we're not going to the spaceport," Marcus said, his enhanced tactical awareness revealing possibilities he'd never seen before. "I know where Vex Karun keeps his personal transport." Through their mental link, he felt the other's agreement and anticipation. They were no longer just individuals thrown together by circumstances. They were a unit, a family, a new form of life that transcended the boundaries between species. The theft of Vex Karun's ship was almost anticlimactic. Their enhanced abilities made them move like ghosts through the Vorthak security perimeter, and the ship's biometric locks proved vulnerable to Ravenna's royal genetic codes, especially now that those codes had been modified by the gene seed's influence. The vessel itself was a work of art, sleek biomechanical curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in motion. Its hull was a deep purple that shifted to blue in different lights, and weapon pods nestled along its sides like predatory organs. The interior was spacious enough for a crew of 20, with living quarters that adapted to their occupants' preferences. As they lifted off from Zarian Prime, Marcus looked back at the rapidly shrinking planet through the viewport. The acid storms were visible from orbit, great spirals of chemical destruction that made the world look diseased. "Any regrets?" he asked Ravenna, who stood beside him on the ship's bridge. "Many," she admitted, watching her homeworld dwindle to a point of light. "But not about this. Not about us." Behind them, the four attendants worked the ship's controls with easy familiarity. The bond had given them all access to each other's knowledge and skills, creating a crew that functioned with supernatural efficiency. Marcus found he could pilot the ship as well as any of them, despite never having seen Vorthak technology before. "Marcus," Nix called from the sensor station, her enhanced awareness detecting anomalies invisible to standard equipment. "We're being followed. 3 pursuit ships, Vorthak military configuration." "How long until we reach the Void Belt?" he asked. 12 hours at current speed, Zara replied from the navigation station. "They'll catch us in 8, Thara added from tactical, her fingers dancing over weapons controls with practiced ease. Marcus felt the collective attention of his bonded partners focus on him, waiting for his decision. The weight of leadership was strange but not unwelcome, especially when he could feel their absolute trust and confidence flowing through the psychic link. "Then we'll have to convince them to stop following us," he said. "Ravenna, does this ship have any hidden weapon systems?" Her smile was sharp as her crimson hair. Vex Karun was paranoid. "This ship is armed like a dreadnought." She moved to a concealed panel that opened at her touch, revealing additional weapon controls. Bioplasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and something the Vorthak call hunting spears, missiles that learn their target's evasion patterns. "Good. Let's give our pursuers a reason to reconsider their career choices." The space battle that followed was brief but decisive. Enhanced reflexes and shared tactical awareness made them nearly untouchable, while their opponents were still thinking and reacting as individuals. Marcus felt his consciousness merge with the ship's targeting systems, guided by Ravenna's instinctive understanding of Vorthak technology and Thara's tactical expertise. The pursuit ships tried to use numerical superiority in standard military doctrine, but found themselves fighting an enemy that anticipated their every move. Bioplasma bursts found gaps in their defenses with uncanny accuracy, while quantum torpedoes phased through their shields to detonate inside their hulls. When the last pursuit ship retreated towards Zarian Prime, trailing atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, Marcus finally allowed himself to relax. "The research station is just ahead," Kess reported, her enhanced senses picking up signals across a broad spectrum. "Picking up automated beacon signals, it's still active." The station hung in the eternal night of the Void Belt like a metal flower, its modular sections spread across several kilometers of space. As they approached, docking lights activated automatically, guiding them to an empty berth that seemed to reshape itself to accommodate their ship. "Home sweet home," Marcus murmured. "For now," Ravenna agreed, "though I suspect our journey is just beginning." As they docked and began exploring their new refuge, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that she was right. The gene seed had done more than just bond them together. It had awakened something ancient and powerful, something that would draw attention from forces beyond just Vex Karun's ambitions. But looking at his 4 blue-skinned companions, feeling their minds linked to his own, he found he didn't care what challenges lay ahead. They would face them together as they had faced everything else. Together they were unstoppable. 3 months later, the research station had become a true home. The automated systems had adapted to their presence, learning their routines and preferences with unsettling intelligence. Marcus had established workshops where he could modify and improve their equipment, while the women had created training areas to hone their enhanced abilities. The bond between them had deepened beyond the initial genetic link. They moved as one entity with 5 bodies, their thoughts and emotions flowing freely between them. It was Ravenna who first noticed the new development. "Marcus," she said one evening, as they watched the stars wheel slowly past the observation deck's viewport, "I'm pregnant." The words sent a shock of joy and terror through their shared consciousness. Marcus turned to study her face, seeing the same wonder and fear reflected there. Through the bond, he could feel the other's emotions, happiness, excitement, and something deeper. Anticipation. "Is that possible? Human and Vorthak genetics?" "The gene seed made it possible," she explained, her hand moving unconsciously to her still flat abdomen. That was always its ultimate purpose, to create a new generation that combines the best traits of both species. From across the deck, the other women looked up from their various activities. Through the bond, Marcus could feel their emotions: happiness, excitement, and something deeper: anticipation. "We're all changing," Kess added softly. "The gene seed's work isn't finished with us." Marcus felt a new awareness stirring at the edges of his consciousness, a sense of potential waiting to be unlocked. "What do you mean?" "The child," Nix explained, her enhanced senses already detecting subtle changes in Ravenna's biochemistry. "She'll be the first of a new race, and through our bond with you, we'll all be able to bear such children." The implications were staggering: not just a family, but the foundation of an entirely new species. Marcus looked around at the four women who had become so much more than companions, seeing futures filled with possibility stretching out before them. "Well," he said finally, "I guess we'll need a bigger station." Their laughter echoed through the observation deck, carrying with it the promise of generations yet to come. Outside the viewport, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the small miracle unfolding in their midst. But Marcus Kane, former cargo hauler turned patriarch of a new species, found himself looking forward to whatever the universe might throw at them next. After all, they had each other, and they had proven that together they were capable of anything, including rewriting the genetic destiny of two entire species. 2 years passed before they encountered their first real test. Marcus was teaching his daughter, little Aurora, with her mother's blue skin and his dark eyes, how to manipulate the station's controls when the proximity alarm sounded. The child's tiny hands seemed to interface with the biomechanical systems in ways that defied explanation, causing control surfaces to reshape themselves to her touch. "Incoming vessels," Thera reported from the communication center. "Multiple ships, unknown configuration." Marcus handed Aurora to Ravenna and moved to the tactical display. The approaching fleet was massive, easily 50 ships arranged in precise military formation. Each vessel was sleek and predatory, their hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Vorthak?" he asked. "No," Kess replied, her enhanced senses analyzing the sensor data with superhuman precision. "The ships are too large, too advanced. These aren't from any system we know." Through the bond, Marcus felt a chill of recognition from Zara. She'd been studying the station's historical databases, uncovering secrets from the old wars. "The hegemony," she whispered. "They've found us." Marcus's blood ran cold. The hegemony were the bogeymen of deep space, an ancient civilization that had vanished centuries ago after devastating entire star systems. If they were real, if they were coming back. "Open a channel," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a figure that was humanoid but wrong in subtle ways. Too tall, too angular, with eyes that held depths Marcus couldn't fathom. Its skin was pale to the point of translucency, and strange symbols seemed to move beneath the surface like living tattoos. "Humans," the being said, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the brain. "And Vorthak, how unexpected." Aurora began to cry in her mother's arms, and Marcus felt something stir through their bond. Not fear, but recognition. The child could sense something about these beings that the adults couldn't. "This is Marcus Kane," he replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. "This station is under my protection." The being's expression didn't change, but Marcus felt something cold and alien brush against his mind through the bond. His companions moved closer instinctively, their shared strength helping him resist the mental intrusion. "You are bonded," the being observed with what might have been surprise. "Truly bonded, not merely linked. How did you achieve this?" "That's not your concern," Ravenna said, stepping forward with Aurora in her arms. "State your business or leave our space." The being's attention focused on the child, and Marcus felt its interest sharpen to laser intensity. Aurora, unaware of the danger, gurgled happily and reached toward the screen with chubby fingers. As she did, the station's biomechanical systems began to respond, control surfaces rippling like living tissue. "A hybrid! Impossible! The genetic matrices are incompatible." "Not anymore," Marcus said grimly. For a long moment, the being was silent, Aurora's cries grew louder, and with each wail, the station's systems became more active. Lights pulsed in rhythm with her distress, and Marcus could feel dormant systems awakening throughout the facility. Then, unexpectedly, the being smiled, an expression that looked wrong on its angular features. "You have given us a gift beyond measure," it said, "the key to genetic integration we have sought for millennia. We will take the child and the technology that created her." "Over my dead body," Marcus growled. "If necessary," the being replied calmly. "You have 1 standard hour to prepare your surrender." The screen went dark. Around the command center, the 5 bonded souls looked at each other with grim determination. "We can't fight 50 ships," Thara said practically. "We can't run either," Kess added. "Not with Aurora." Marcus felt the weight of decision pressing down on him, but through the bond, he also felt something else. Absolute trust. Whatever he decided, they would follow. "Then we make our stand here," he said. "This station has defenses the hegemony doesn't know about, and we have something they don't." "What's that?" Nix asked. Marcus looked at his daughter, sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms, oblivious to the danger gathering around them. Through the bond, he felt the love and protective fury of 4 warrior women who would die before letting harm come to their family. "We have everything worth fighting for," he said simply. The battle for the future of 2 species was about to begin, and Marcus Kane, former cargo hauler turned defender of a new race, intended to win it, no matter the cost. The hegemony's attack came precisely 1 hour later, just as promised. Their ships moved with mechanical precision, energy weapons slicing through the void to impact against the station's shielding. But the ancient defensive systems held, energy barriers flaring bright as they absorbed the bombardment. But the research station had been built during the height of the old wars, designed to withstand sieges that could last for years. As the shields absorbed the bombardment, Marcus and his bonded companions prepared their response. "Weapons arrays online," Zara reported from her position at the tactical console. "The station's got firepower to match a battlecruiser." "Launching defense drones," Thara added. 47 units deploying. Through the station's sensors, Marcus watched as their automated defenders swarmed toward the hegemony fleet like angry insects. The ancient drones were small but deadly, each one equipped with quantum torpedoes capable of cracking a ship's hull. "They're adapting faster than expected," Kess warned. "Their point defense systems are learning our attack patterns." Marcus felt the tactical situation flow through the bond, 5 minds working as one to analyze threats and opportunities. It was then that Ravenna spoke up from where she protected Aurora in the station's core. "The gene seed technology," she said. "They want it intact. That limits what weapons they'll use against us." "Good point," Marcus agreed. "They can't risk destroying what they came for." "Kess, can you target their command ship?" "Already locked on," she replied, "but their shields are holding." The battle raged for hours, neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. The hegemony's superior numbers were offset by the station's defensive systems and the bonded group's supernatural coordination. But slowly, inevitably, their automated defenses began to fail. "Drone reserves depleted," Nix reported. "They're moving to boarding range." "Shield generators down to 60%, Thara added grimly. Marcus felt the moment of decision approaching. Through the bond, he sensed his companion's readiness to fight to the death. But there had to be another way. Some advantage they hadn't considered. It was Aurora who provided the answer. As the hegemony ships closed in, the child began to cry, her infant wails carrying through the station's corridors. And something impossible happened. The gene seed container, long since depleted and inert, began to glow again. Soft red light pulsed in rhythm with Aurora's cries, and through the bond, Marcus felt new energy stirring. "She's activating dormant systems," Ravenna whispered in amazement. "Her hybrid genetics are resonating with the station's bioorganic components." Around them, the research station began to change. Biomechanical systems that had lain dormant for centuries came online, transforming the facility from a simple research outpost into something far more formidable. The walls themselves began to shift and flow, extruding new structures like a living organism adapting to threat. "New weapon systems appearing on sensor sweeps," Kess reported in disbelief. "The station is growing them." Marcus felt Aurora's influence spreading through their shared bond, her innocent mind somehow interfacing with technology beyond their understanding. The station's hull rippled like living tissue, extruding weapon pods and shield generators with organic fluidity. But there was a cost. Aurora's cries became more distressed, her tiny body straining from the psychic effort. Blood trickled from her nose as her hybrid nervous system overloaded from the connection. "She's pushing too hard," Ravenna said, fear replacing wonder in her voice. "The interface is damaging her brain." Marcus felt the impossible choice: use their daughter's abilities to save them all, or protect her at the cost of their lives. "I can help her," Nick said suddenly. "Through the bond, I can share the load." "We all can," Thara added. "Distribute the strain across all of us." Through their psychic link, the four women joined their consciousness to Aurora's, creating a living circuit that could handle the massive data flow. The child's cries quieted as the burden was shared, her vital signs stabilizing. "Impossible," came the hegemony commander's voice over the communications channel. "No species has achieved biomechanical integration at this level." "Apparently we just did," Marcus replied. The station's new weapons opened fire with devastating effect. Bioplasma cannons that fired guided rounds of living energy, seeking their targets with predatory intelligence. Quantum mines that phased in and out of reality, appearing inside enemy ships to detonate from within. And strangest of all, tendrils of living metal that reached across space to ensnare enemy vessels, crushing them like a predator's embrace. The hegemony fleet found itself fighting not just a space station, but a living entity that adapted and evolved with each exchange of fire. Their precise military formations crumbled as the station's defenses proved capable of learning and countering their tactics in real time. "Retreat!" the hegemony commander finally ordered, his voice carrying disbelief and something that might have been fear. "All ships, immediate withdrawal." As the enemy fleet fled toward the edge of the system, Marcus felt the station's new systems powering down. Aurora had stopped crying, her tiny hand wrapped around her mother's finger as she slept peacefully. "Did we just witness the birth of a new form of life?" Nix asked quietly. "More than that," Ravenna replied, looking at their daughter with wonder and no small amount of concern. "We witnessed the birth of something that could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy." Marcus nodded grimly. The hegemony would be back, and next time they would come prepared for what they had learned here. But Aurora and any siblings she might have would grow up with abilities that defied comprehension. "We need allies," he said finally. "Other species that would stand with us against the hegemony." "The Vorthak," Kess suggested. "Despite everything, they would fight to protect Aurora." "And the human colonies," Thara added. "They deserve to know what's coming." Marcus felt the weight of destiny settling around them like a mantle. They were no longer just a family bound by alien law and genetic manipulation. They had become the guardians of a new evolutionary path, one that could determine the future of biological life in the galaxy. "Then we'd better get started," he said. "We have a universe to warn." Through the viewport, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, indifferent to the struggles of mortal beings. But somewhere among those distant lights, new powers were stirring, drawn by the promise and threat of what 5 bonded souls and 1 impossible child represented. The real adventure was just beginning,